Today I'm going to talk about the effects of floating and littering. We all love to have a good time, but when does that fun turn harmful? Floating is always a big aspect for us in Missoula, but there is harmful aspects to it as well, such as the safety of floating, the aspects of how much trash is left behind, and the effects on wildlife and environment. You should always have safety measures and proper steps when floating. The precautions when bringing drinks and trash with you to properly expose your garbage. First, I would like to explain the dangers of floating. Floating is a favorite pastime for most people in the summer, and it does not take a lot to make it happen. All you need is a tube and a vehicle to get there, with most likely a case of beer. We sit back, relax, and enjoy the water, but when can a float turn south? I have seen several people pop their tubes as well as hit rocks and trees, causing them to fall in. You hear stories about people falling in and not coming back up because of getting trapped or a current being too strong to reach the top. Water is fun and enjoyable as it is unpredictable and a powerful source. When bringing kids and dogs, make sure that they are wearing life jackets for their safety. You will need to know what lies ahead of you on the river to make sure no dams and dangerous obstacles lie ahead. There are several steps you can make sure you have the safest float possible. You make sure all your ropes are secure and not to snag on anything. Know what your swimming capabilities are, so if you are in a situation, you can always end up on top. Lastly, if you do plan on drinking, just make sure you know your limit. Secondly, I'm going to touch on littering and the effects of the wildlife environment. Littering has always been a huge issue in the world, and people have been to exaggerating measures to help stop it. When we do go floating, people usually bring drinks, food along to have a good time, but do they always remember to dispose of everything properly? Situations can happen when you fall in, lose some of your supplies, and most try their best to retrieve their belongings. You cannot control when things happen, but you can take measures to get a trash bag to tie to your tube so it can't get away. Now, what about the garbage that does not get picked back up? With all sorts of things, it can most likely be cans or glass in Montana, even though glass is not permitted on rivers. Some might not think of the repercussions they leave behind, but glass is bound to break, and now you left someone to deal with your mistake while being susceptible to getting wounded. With the impact of littering has on the people, but did you ever stop to think about what it does to the wildlife and environment? Sometimes we do not take time to truly realize what our actions can affect. When you drop or lose things in the water, the aquatic life is affected more because that's their home and where their food is. They can swallow our garbage, causing death to these beautiful creatures or trapping them in things they can't get out of. As for our environment, it makes it look unclean and unhealthy. It can also bring the wrong wildlife that could cause harm to individuals or be there attracted by our own garbage. And to wrap up this speech, I want everyone to take away knowing the safety of floating, the repercussions of littering, and the harm it does to our environment. When you do go out and enjoy the privileges of floating the rivers and have a good time with your friends, just remember to keep your safety a priority, but most importantly, take care of our planet and the species that inhabit it.